Hey y'all, welcome to Sex Ed for You, the podcast where research meets reality.
I am Lauren, a certified holistic sexuality educator.
And I'm Holland, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Public Health.
Sex Ed for You's podcast is for people who want to date and have great sex that is fun and safe and enjoyable. We like to empower our listeners to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. Welcome. Cheers. Now I want to cheers every single podcast because that was so fun. Clink, clink. Welcome to another episode.
Sex Ed for You.
With Lauren and Holland, where research meets
reality.
Mm-hmm. It's like holiday time, and when we're recording this, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and it's a crazy time for lots of people. Lots of people. And for some, kind of in your age range, I'm curious if folks are talking about like thinking through making new traditions, Friendsgiving, stuff like that. And then there's folks of my ripe old age who have maybe been on the other side of that and now have some new traditions that they do with family and without family. But I know a bunch of clients alone this week have talked about fear, anticipating different gatherings. And so I thought we could chat about some of that, going back, family difficulties, consent, kids, what to do in that world. But then also for like your age bracket, seeing friends from like high school and stuff. I know my sister used to talk about it all the time. It was horrible to come back here to our small town because she was seeing people that like weren't a part of her life anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so...
Yeah. Your face. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start with all... Because, oh boy, do I have opinions and thoughts on all of it.
And let's start this off. Let's like, I don't know, caveat that if anyone listens to this and knows us, first of all, please don't read into anything. I think that we all should be asking ourselves these types of questions. And something I've been really challenging myself with recently is what labels or titles have I taken on that somebody else put on me that I never really wanted myself, or was something from my past. Yeah. We've all seen the cute little illustrations of like a butterfly, like a caterpillar going into a cocoon, and then it comes out and it's a butterfly, and everybody's like, "You've changed." And the little quote's like, "We're supposed to."
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to.
We're supposed to. People don't like that very often, though.
Not very often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. So yeah, let's let you kind of take us off if you don't mind. Like, yeah, do you feel you're going home for Christmas? Any tension in your body about going into past scenarios? People who are just listening on audio, you should watch the video because Holland's face alone is describing feelings. Yeah. Talk to me.
Okay, so yeah, lots of angst, lots of anxiety surrounding holidays. My family is huge. My family gathers probably close to 35 to 50 people together. Very close-knit extended family, which is such a positive thing in so many ways. So many of these people have been so instrumental in my life and are truly all great people. However, when that many people get together, it can be overwhelming, not just in the sense that you would think of like, oh my gosh, there's so many different opinions, there's so many different people coming from different places, but it's also, for me, it's so just overwhelming to be in a house with 30 people making so many noises, and like, it's like high school all over again. Like, where do I sit? Who do I talk to? I want to avoid this person, but I want to see this person. It's like this interconnected web of chaos. So I will say I'm excited to be doing Thanksgiving on my own this year because I can like create my own traditions, and I have things to look forward to, and I can cook on my own, and it's just a lot less stressful. But going back for Christmas, I think is going to be scary in a lot of ways, especially for specifically Christmas, like the day of and the days before, because I know a lot of people are going to have questions about my new life. I'm going to be kind of like the spotlight because nobody else has moved away, and I moved away and pretty much haven't really spoken to anybody except my close family and my gran. And so I'm really scared about what everybody's going to be asking me and what they're all going to want to know. And I just don't like being the center of attention at my family. because I have before, and it never goes well. It does not. There's one specific time that I think of that since that year I have had anxiety leading up to every family event. I had gone to a concert with my sister. It was in 2019 before COVID. It was like the last concert I went to before COVID hit. And we went to a concert. I was 18, 19 years old, wasn't drinking alcohol at the concert. I was drinking Red Bull. And I remember I sat down my Red Bull for this photo because I didn't want it to look like a beer. I had just got into my sorority and I was like, oh my gosh, it can't look like I'm drinking. So I set it down. You know, my sister and I take a cute picture. I post it on Instagram. And then Christmas comes. I think nothing of it. This picture got, 80-something likes or 100-something likes, and don't even think about it anymore. Christmas comes, and one of my family members starts kind of berating me about this picture because you can see a Coors Light in the background, but I'm not holding it. My sister isn't holding it. It's like someone behind us is holding it. And they were berating me about how dare I have alcohol on my Instagram because I'm underage. And we're sitting at this table with like a bunch of my family members, and then other family members start jumping in and saying like, you're going to get kicked out of your sorority. You're going to get kicked out of A&M. You can't have that on your profile. And that is the day I had my first panic attack, like physical panic attack. I stopped breathing and I ran outside and was just bawling my eyes out and breathing so hard and getting no oxygen. And it just like, even now thinking about it, like my body just feels so uncomfortable. And I was just mortified. And my mom stuck up for me. It was great that she did that. But it was just, ever since that day, every family event, I'm like, what are they going to yell at me about? Like, what have I done wrong this time? Right. And I can't lie and say that there haven't been multiple times where, because I'm the black sheep, I'm the one who works in sex education. Right. I'm the one who moved out of state and is a little bit more liberal than everybody. A little bit, but it's more liberal than everybody else. Like, I'm the one that people really go for in the family. At least it feels like that from my side. And I know they don't intend it to be that way. They love me. They love me so well.
Oh, yeah.
But in those situations, all I can feel is anxiety.
Love you. Thank you. Let's do something. Let's do an exercise. You want to do an exercise in lifetime?
Yeah, I kind of do. Talking about that was a little
Let's
dysregulating.
do an exercise. My body's like, you should do the exercise that I've done with so many clients over this past month and myself. So, okay, quick story time. My partner and I just got back from our anniversary trip, and I'm sure we will talk about it in the partnership podcast, the other one. But it was a hot mess and, not a hot mess. There was just 3 different instances that were really triggering and triggered old traumas of mine. Yeah. And so I did this exercise just recently myself too. So I'm not doing anything to you that I haven't done to myself first. I think that so often we fear going into gatherings because of old experiences, right? Yeah. And our body has stored, the body keeps the score, the body remembers. What Peter Levine would say is that our body wants to complete the loop, right? So it's almost going in, it wants to change the story, but sometimes we'll create these self-fulfilling prophecies almost, where then family will like interact with us in the way that they do, surprise, surprise. And the story won't change. The ending won't change. And so what's really interesting to me as a sex educator who works with a lot of people with stored trauma in their bodies is, how do we renegotiate that? How do we say, you know what, actually, I'm going to take the responsibility off of your shoulders, Uncle Johnny, and put them on mine, because you're actually probably not going to change how you approach me. That's probably ingrained in you, and that's okay. And also, it's not my job to control you and how you interact with me, but we can heal our own traumas. So this is, I'll talk about what I did, and then we'll let you kind of like suss out this thing. What's cool from a sexuality perspective is that I have borrowed from the work of Peter Levine and kink BDSM communities to formulate this exercise, and it's a little bit of Jungian. It's all these things. So it's a nerdy sexuality educator moment here. Okay. What I encouraged myself to do when my body completely shut down on the beach with my husband last Wednesday, a week ago today, this time, right now, I was finishing a human design read on the beach. Trey comes up. He surprised me at where I was, which in retrospect, I didn't like. I had wanted to finish out my time, then come find him, shower, decompress, whatever. He's like so happy to see me, right? He wasn't intending harm.
Yeah.
My body was just like, whoa, what are you doing in like my private space? And he had been drinking, which is also a good thing for us to bring up because at lots of family gatherings, people have been drinking, right? So they're not really themselves. They're like sipping on a glass of wine. They're more loose. So we'll often say things, right? We'll often be more cheeky. And we might be hurting someone, right? So he like gave me a kiss and then lay down on a beach lounger right next to my seat. And I felt in my body like, what you doing, bud? Like, this is my time. And then as soon as my human design read finished up, he like pulled me on top of him again, super lovey-dovey, and was like, what do you want to do? And I mentioned the thing that we had already kind of talked about doing. And he was like, oh, I can't do that tonight. And my whole little body was like, okay, not actually because of Trey, because of my own trauma with an alcoholic husband for 10 years. So all of a sudden, panic attack sets in. All of a sudden, I am recalculating my whole night. I am thinking about how I'm going to manage this drunken man. He's not drunk. He's just tipsy, and he's fine, and he had not done anything wrong. And I am taking myself out of the game. I'm telling myself I have no voice. I'm making myself super small because I got married at 21. Yeah. I am losing every faculty that anyone who's a student of mine, anyone who listens to these podcasts thinks that I have. Yeah. They're gone. Yeah. Like literally have disappeared. Trey can tell my whole body changes. Yeah. We try to talk while I'm like sitting on top of him. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, well, I had wanted this thing, but now and he was like, no, don't like say, no, what do you want? And so like then I felt like even more scared because it was like pushing in, which happens all the time at family gatherings. People are like, no, let her say, right? And then all of a sudden we're like, so we get up, we walk a little farther. Then I start like protecting my body. And I want any listeners and viewers, you know the feeling. It's like all of a sudden you start like crossing things and I feel it. I can't make eye contact with him. This man I love. I cannot look him in the eyes. I wanted to run the fuck away. I wanted to bolt. Then he's getting defensive because I'm breaking down. He yells fuck, not at me, but just at like the fact that this is happening again is what he says. So then I feel like the failure, the black sheep, the one who can't get it together. Yeah. It was a mess. It was a mess. So hours later, after I've showered, I don't know, I've kind of come back to my body. He's like, what can we even do? And I was like, I guess we can try my renegotiation of trauma through play exercise. Y'all, it's very hard to be the person like with the tools in the traumatized body. So I'm like, okay, this is how it works. We create a scene. We talk about the entire scene, start to finish, including the aftercare that I want afterwards. So I was like, okay, let me talk it through. I want you to, because he kept saying to me, this is why we decided to renegotiate throughout. Why didn't you tell me to go? And I was like, I was so rude. And he's like, so be rude. Like, what are you talking about? You could have just told me to fuck off. Like you wanted the end of your time, right? Which I understand as a person who teaches people how to ask for what they need, want, and desire, why that's appropriate. Because he said, I didn't know that you didn't want me there. Yeah. Totally legit. That is a legit thing. And I was like, oh, let's see. I don't know why. So let's find out. So I was like, okay, let's pretend I'm still on my Zoom call. You come in. I'd like for this scene, you to come give me a kiss, just like you did. And then I want you to lay down here on this couch in our room, pretending you're on the lounger. Then I'm going to fake pause my Zoom call. And I'm going to turn to you and say, hey, like, I know you didn't mean anything, but can you go? Like, I want to finish out this time. I'll meet you back at the room. Then I want you to not go. I want you to lay there. And I want you to frown at me, and I want you to wrap your arms, and I want you to make your body dead weight for 5 whole seconds. Then I want to push you. You might start crying. Because when I was married to an alcoholic, I would want his scary drunk self to be out of spaces. But I don't know how many people have interacted with a very drunk person. They're like heavy dead weight. Yeah. And you can't really do that. So I told Trey, I want you to just lay still for 5 seconds. And then after the 5, I do want you to get up and I want you to leave our hotel room, then count to another 5 seconds and then come back in. The scene will be over. And then I want you to just hold me. I want you then to kiss, because he kept saying as I was in my trauma body, like, babe, I support you asking for what you want. Right.
Yeah.
Which is what's so funny. But a person in their trauma response can't hear this. So I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you would be mad. And he's like, what are you talking about? When have I ever been mad? But I'm like, you would be mad. So I was like, then I want you to come in and then you can say things like, you are safe. I support your wants. You can hold me. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we'll be laughing. I don't know. Let's see. So he's like, okay, that sounds totally fine. I'm here for it. Trey has a background in acting, so that does help for this exercise. So I was like, okay, scene, let's go. So I did the whole thing. I pretended to be on the Zoom call. He kissed me. He laid down. I pretended to pause. I started pushing him. I was like, hey, I need you to go. I want to finish this time. I want this for myself. I want space. And then he became dead weight and he looked at me with a mean face. And I started to push. And as soon as I started to push, it like all came back. And what shocked me more than anything in the world is that all of a sudden I wasn't feeling rage. I was feeling overwhelming fear of being alone. That if I actually had pushed my ex-husband out, if I actually had said, this is what I want, get the fuck out of the house, I would have been alone. And so in that moment, I realized that it was me who hadn't stood in my power because I didn't have the tools. I didn't know that I would be okay. I was desperately afraid of being alone, all alone in the world. And so it's like something overcame me as I was pushing, and like the floodgates let loose. And I realized that I was angry at my ex-husband, but more than anything, I was angry at myself, that I hadn't known that I would be so okay alone. So I pushed and I pushed. I cried and I cried. 5 seconds went by. It seemed like literally an eternity. He got up. He walked out. I, like fetal position, started sobbing. He came back in. But when he came back in, it felt like my husband, like my partner. Yeah. And he kissed me and stroked my back and said all of the things. And I mean, I was like, we all know it, like a big sob, like the biggest in the world. But they were cleansing. They felt cleansing. So all that to say, then we were able to identify it. Then I was able to take accountability, which is what's really important because it had been me who hadn't asked for what I wanted. But yeah, Trey has no history of not giving me what I want. Other people do. Okay, so we're going to back up. You don't need to cry and sob and everything on live on the Seffi podcast. But I would like to go back to that time. And I would like to think about at that instance where your body was panicking and attacking, what you really would have liked to have done, and or your mom did speak up for you, but would you have liked it to look even more or different or powerful? Trey did this exercise later, and he, regarding a completely different incident, all of a sudden he came in as the adult version of himself in a suit into this instance where somebody had screamed at him so loudly, and he just said some quiet little words. And it had the same effect on his body. I literally watched his body like unfurl. Because we changed the story, right? Not the other people that we have no control over who are a little cuckoo. Like they just are. Usually the people who've hurt us didn't intend to hurt us. Yeah. But they're not going to like go read The Art of Giving and Receiving by Dr. Betty Martin. No. They're just not going to do that. Okay. So yeah, you're like fidgeting with your hands. What do you wish would have happened in that scenario if you could go back in time to 2019 Baby Holland?
Yeah, Baby Holland. Baby Holland. Wow. I don't know. I've never thought about what I would have actually wished had happened. I think because I've always been strong-willed, so I did argue. It wasn't in lack of words on my side by any means. The person who did it just happens to be a force of nature. Okay. Like nothing I do is gonna make me feel better. So I don't know.
What do you wish an adult would say? What do you wish somebody else in power even stronger than would say?
Look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. Like this is a child who consciously made the effort to not have alcohol in the post, and you can tell that Coors Light is held by someone that's 20 feet away. Chill the fuck out. But the thing that, like, I know that would mean nothing.
One of my best friend's therapists has a saying when an adult is behaving like a child that she gives her clients to use, which is, that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
With a really condescending voice.
Yeah.
From a place of calm. What you're saying is really inappropriate right now.
I've seen people on Instagram saying, what an odd thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
Or what an odd thing to say to me. And then just look at them.
Because the truth of the matter is it's inappropriate. And it is malicious behavior. Talk about our field. By a person in a position of power. We're factoring in age dynamics. We're factoring in financial means just by the nature of the age dynamic. We're factoring in power by where she sits in age in this family. It is non-consensual and childish. Not childlike, playful, childish. Yeah. I wish someone bigger than her could have said that.
Yeah.
That's inappropriate.
I would love if her husband had said something, because he's the only one that holds weight over her.
Okay, cool. Craft that sentence for me. What would her husband in an ideal world say?
Like in his own voice
Sure.
type? Okay. I guess it would have been, I don't know, because he's also her guard dog.
But you're right. He's probably one of the only people in that world
Yeah.
who could,
He would probably have said something along the lines of, like, kind of what I said, just calm down. What are you doing? Like, hey, let's go for a walk. Or let me get you another glass of Pinot Grigio. Just something to placate rather than to, like, point the finger. It definitely would have been, like, placate. But
Yeah.
I don't think there is any world where I'm satisfied with the end of that loop, because that loop is never ending for me. Like, it really, I do have the chance to renegotiate because it happens every time.
What I think, and you, on our list of topics that you encouraged us to talk about, was the power of our brains. Glennon Doyle says in Untamed, one of my favorite books, that really what people really want of us is that we just be really okay. That they're really far more focused on their own worlds. And so I hear you, that we can never change this human's way of communicating with you. I hear you. I do believe, call me crazy, that we can change, if we interact with them. I mean, we literally can tell our families, no, I will not be in a space with that person anymore because they are harmful to my body. So
my sister's done that.
Yeah, we literally can do that because we have a right and to self-determination, right? Like, this is what we preach all the time. Yeah. And if it is literally harmful for our bodies, no. We also, I do think that sometimes there are instances in which we don't want to, like, rock the boat that much. I think we can go in with a mindset of, this person is sad and hurting and hurts other people, and they hold no power on my life today. It takes a whole lot of imagination and childlike curiosity. Yeah. It does. Not childishness, childlike curiosity and play, where we literally go in with affirmations, and we have told people in advance, like, hey, this person, I won't be interacting with them. If they do, I might laugh and leave the room. Like, literally laugh and leave the room. Yeah. But yeah, I think we can, either by external or internal boundaries, which is the thing I read about in a boundary book once. And I was like, that's fascinating, because we can remove ourselves. Yeah. I think also there are situations in which we're going to have to be with people who are toxic to our bodies, that we can have an internal boundary that we're like, oh my goodness, right? In our heads, we can be saying the thing that you want her husband to say, right? You might know that it's not worth it for you to say it. But I do think saying it is really powerful. You know what word should be said to her by the person that should. You're exactly right that probably she's never going to listen to you.
Yeah, no.
And it's really tragic. Another thing, and then we can kind of like transition a little bit, but is I was telling a couple clients this week that I encourage taking different objects in our pockets or having like a bracelet, like fidget toys in essence. But I really like sharp, pokey things.
Yeah.
I really like sharp, pokey things. And I like, call me cuckoo, endowing it with something beforehand, right? Like, this is the thing I am going to put my hand on when Aunt so-and-so comes up to me. And I am going to remind myself, this is a silly person. She is silly. I am not.
Yeah.
Right? I did move to Virginia to pursue my career in sex education. I actually am a good person. And I drink and I use weed and I use, right? Like, I am these things. This person is silly and the way they are approaching me is childish. And I will use it. I will just hold it and play with it. I will also use it as a reminder to get out of unsafe situations, bodily ones. I've also started using like copper because apparently copper is a conductor and you can like press the energies of other people into it. So I sometimes carry like copper, like a penny in my pocket, and I rub on that. I don't think it's crazy because we're worth it. And these family gatherings don't get to like destroy our holidays, but they do so often. Have you tried any of like the pokey things or the other things in your pockets ever before?
No, I don't think so. Down to try it. More than happy to.
Maybe we should go to Stone Store before you go home. We
Ooh,
have
that would be fun.
or like a rock store.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun to read like the meanings behind the whole rock. And I usually, again, like endow it with that purpose because funerals do the same thing. I had to go to a funeral a couple months ago and there were a bunch of people from my past life. And my favorite thing was somebody came up to me to tell me something that they were doing, like a new fun thing that they were embracing in the stage. And they came up to me specifically because they know that I celebrate like pleasure and joy. It was really fun. And I at first thought that this was so neat. Like this person knew they could come share a joyous thing in their lives because I celebrate joy. And then they said, I knew you would think it was great that I was doing this. Now, I will never go as far as you, but I thought you would like to know this. And I was like, looked around me. Of course, there was no one else standing there. And I thought, why was that even necessary? Like, why was that piece necessary? I'll never be as wild as you.
Well, it's a self thing. They have to make sure that you know that they're not as crazy as you are.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, you just tuck yourself in, go to bed, hon. It's okay.
It's fine.
You're the only one that's
fine.
worried.
Yeah. But to that event, I took this bracelet that I'm even wearing now so that I could just fidget with it. And also copper and another stone. And, I think it helped because it just reminded me of who I was before, during, and after.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these things don't last forever, actually. But right when we're in a trauma body, we think that they are. We really can see nothing else. Yeah, so let's go to the stone store.
Let's do it. If anything, even if, the woo-woo powers that we believe in aren't real, the brain power enough and the comfort that it brings in the belief. It's like religion, like the comfort in believing in something will be helpful no matter what, even if, because sitting through those prayers is also going to be fun.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk opposite side of the coin, since we're talking coins and pennies. Kind of like seeing friends from past lives. Is that as tricky for you, or is that not? Or have you ever run into anything like that? Or no? Because you are in this season of stating who you are, my friend. This is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think...
How's that going, Uncle Bill?
The only people I really connect with from high school are people who have seen me grow.
Okay.
Through the stages.
Cool.
So my best friend from high school, the two of them that I still speak to, that I was really close with, they've one of them went to college with me, and one of them I catch up with, every 6 to 8 months. I try to see her. And they've both been so encouraging in my growth, and so just genuinely amazing people. And they have encouraged me in every way possible. So those two, it's not hard at all for me to see. They admire and encourage my growth in beautiful ways. I don't really talk to anybody else from high school. But if I see them, I almost take joy in being like, look at this new me. Because it feels so different. I don't even think I'm the same person. I should have like a new name, genuinely. I am so different than the person I was in high school. I wouldn't recognize her if I met her on the street. So I think seeing people like that, I'm like, oh, like, hey, if you want to get to know me as me, that's great. I would love to get to know you as the new you. If not. And so I think it's helpful that I didn't really have a ton of people that I was super close with in high school, because I don't have any like lingering people. I just have my two close besties.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right. The bright side. The bright side. Could that phrase or mindset not be taken into the family gatherings?
Yeah.
Because that was really healthy. That was really healthy. That was a really lovely approach.
Thank you.
That was a really lovely approach.
I think I've tried. I think it's a slower integration because these people have known me since I was a baby.
Yeah.
And they feel like they have some type of right over who I am and who I become. They don't.
No.
But I mean, I even see it with my sister every once in a while. She'll bring something up and I'm like, that's not me anymore. And she's like, but that was you for a long time. Like she'll kind of like say something as if she knows the way I would react. And I'm like, no. And she takes it so graciously and she's like, okay, yeah. Like, and she'll, take a step back and realize, and I'm very thankful that she is so open to my changes, but the rest of my family is not the same. So, I have a very distinct personality and always have, but the nuances of it have changed so drastically.
Yep.
That my family will often put me in this box of who I used to be, which was the person that they wanted me to be.
Right.
And my nuance has just shifted that so dramatically that they don't love that I'm like, this is who I am now. They're like, no, but this is who you should be. And so I kind of get shoved into that box of, well, why are you that way? Yeah. Why do you think that? Right. And like, it's all these why questions, but they don't really want to hear the answer. So I'm kind of at the point of wondering if it's worth it to describe the why and to say, this is my joy, this is my passion, this is who I am. I hope you respect and admire that. Because that conversation feels so dead end. But, it's up in the air. I would love to approach it from the way I approach high school friends.
Right, because that was, I can't wait for you to listen to this back. That was good. That was good. Two things have come to mind. One of my favorite sayings, this acronym JADE, that none of us should ever feel required to justify, argue, defend, or explain. Ever. We should not be in spaces that make us feel the need to do that. Because of exactly what you said. They're not really listening for the why. If we are being made to feel that we need to justify our actions, argue, defend, or explain why we're doing something, we probably should be looking for different people to spend our time with. And then another thing that kept coming to mind was when I work with individuals on forming their sexual values, one of my favorite systems for doing this says that we all have a right and responsibility to know our values systems, and that we can best engage in discussions with others about them if they have also done their work to discover the origins of their value systems, are working on at all times, evolving and expanding them, and are prepared to have an open-minded conversation about yours and theirs. And that if they haven't done all of that, it's not worth having conversations with people about these things. You have done hell of work on all of these things. So much. And it's almost a waste of time.
Yeah. And a waste of emotional energy.
100%.
Yeah.
And also, it's like in sex ed school, we had to learn about the concept of education. And one of the questions posed to us in one class was, can you change someone's mind?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think they need to change their own mind.
Yeah.
I think you can present the evidence, but it's their choice whether or not they believe it.
It was really freeing, and that was the posture with which the instructor and the professor was showing us, right? That I could teach till I'm red in the face. Blue in the face? What's the saying? Teach
Both.
till
I
I'm
think it's blue in the face because you're out of oxygen.
blue in the face. If somebody's not interested in learning what I have to teach, it's not going to be transformative at all, which is why with our students, we always start with their knowledge, skills, and attitudes that they want to work on, because I'm not here to change people's minds.
No.
Right? You're not going to Christmas dinner to change people's minds.
No.
I wonder what clever questions, maybe we can pose this to the audience, that they would use, to family members in this situation. If they get thrown with well, why did you do that, Holland? How would it be appropriate to be like, oh, why would you like to know? Right?
Yeah.
Are there innocent enough questions?
Yeah.
My boundary thing is around holiday times. I live in the same town that I grew up in. So same. People have all decided these types of things. And so people come home, people are around, I'll see them. The other day I ran into someone and they were from a very harmful system that was very detrimental to me. And they gave me this big hug, but it was almost this proselytizing hug. And they were like, it's been so long. And this was also a person who, when I was being slandered and dragged through the mud, did not defend me. Did not say, hey, that's not who I know Lauren to be. So this hug felt very yucky. So I brainstormed with friends, what could I do in this instance? And somebody gave me the phrase, and this is why I'd love to throw it to the crowd, of that when somebody comes in to hug, I could kind of just hold my arm out, almost as it looks like I'm going to hug, and say, it's been a while.
Oh, grab their arm?
It's been a while. Because I didn't want to say, oh, it's so good to see you, and then walk away. Yeah. Because it's not.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's not good. It is actually triggering for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be hugged.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can transfer into body boundaries. No, this is my space. This is my body that you harmed, actually. So by letting you hug me, talk about not protecting myself.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So it's been a while. And there are a lot of cute little phrases that aren't necessarily disrespectful. They're just honest.
It's hard for me to not be honest in those situations. I can't put a smile on and say, it's so good to see you. Yeah. It's very hard for me to do that.
Good. Keep that. Keep that. Can we kind of close out talking about, if we could go back in time, younger us protected at some of these events, different things as sex educators that we teach and talk about. I was just writing these questions out, so some of this is fresh on my mind. But I think obviously our audience spans this really wide generational gap, which is really cool. But I'd love to talk about, for any parents that are listening, ways that we can have conversations with our kiddos prior to these family gatherings, wherein we can equip and empower them to not come away from family gatherings traumatized. Whether their bodies have been violated, which happens all the time. Sorry to be alarming on this podcast at family gatherings over the holidays. Or whether their energy and their psyche and their mind has been harmed. Yeah. I always like to say that these conversations have to happen well in advance of the gathering that you're going to, because trust is earned through trustworthy behavior. And so our children need to see. I was writing down today that I would love more families to develop a safe word of their own.
Oh, yeah.
It can be something simple like potato. It could be something more nuanced, like elf on the shelf, something that's going to be kind of hidden.
Yeah.
Did you see they have an elf on the shelf? Giving your child a phrase to use. Then the other thing I was thinking and putting to paper was a nonverbal signal, like a certain hand squeeze, like a 2 pulses. because we need to acknowledge the systems of power again. And so if you have young ones, even middle schoolers, high schoolers even, who are feeling very uncomfortable around a certain family member, they might not want to say something out loud.
Yeah.
But they might feel comfortable coming over to you on the couch and kind of like double squeezing your shoulders.
Yeah.
Right? Or triple squeezing a finger,
Yeah.
which needs to be honored.
Yeah.
And the parent needs to get up and leave the room and go to a different place with their kiddo. And then we have to listen. And we have to believe our children the first time. And it has to be non-negotiable, and it has to be practiced at home. It might sound silly, but the place to practice these things is not at the family gathering. It's at home. And so giving the kids an opportunity to come over, practice the hand squeeze, practice these things, and be able to trust that parent will get up and leave the room. Then I think most importantly, when I hear from clients and when I read the research, is that most children don't report because the perpetrator or has told them, or they just deeply believe that they're the one who's going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Again and again and again. I can't tell because. And so there need to be some really long conversations with our kiddos about how they will not be in trouble and where responsibility should be placed.
Yeah.
Where accountability is going to be placed, where consequences will lie, how boundaries will be enforced. I was brainstorming today that as uncomfortable as it is a parent's job to define the boundary at the beginning of a gathering, right? So to say to everybody, hey, my kiddo does not need to hug anyone goodbye today. I would really appreciate if you respect our family boundary there. Because so many children are asked to give hugs goodbye at family gatherings and hugs hello. And then they are called rude if they don't do it.
If asked, even. I mean, I was always just approached and taken.
Yes. Yeah. Which people will often say to me, oh, but it's not harmful. This is what's harmful. It teaches our children that their intuition does not matter.
And that they don't have autonomy over their body and who touches it.
Yes. So then 15 years down the road, when your child is assaulted and they don't tell you or tell anyone,
Which is
parents better sit up and take note.
Yeah. And if you don't believe it, that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, draw the exact line and say that this is why.
No, but
I can tell you that I grew up that
I will
way.
be in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? I
fully thought I was going to be in trouble.
100%. That's when any child who has any concept at all of fear around sexuality, and that's it, is given.
Which is what abstinence-only sex ed does. Build fear around
Don't do
sex.
this.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Don't do it at all. So even if it's non-consensual, you're the one in trouble.
You're the one in trouble because you've quote-unquote allowed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think going back to the saying, my kid is not required to hug anybody today, I think I've also experienced so many people who someone's brave enough to say that for their kid. My kid doesn't need to do that. And then there's shit talk behind closed doors of, I can't believe little Susie said that her kids don't have to hug us. How dare they? I don't even have, what's your response to that? Because I have nothing.
Listen, I think that goes to our primal need to belong. And so what we like to do is shit talk too, because that threatens belonging. It's like, well, wait a second. I've never insisted that others protect my kid. So I don't want to be the bad parent. So instead we will make Susie the bad parent. And so I think it goes to our core, like primal instincts of danger, danger, danger. And so instead of, excuse me, I've had so many tummy issues today. Instead of going to a place of curiosity, humility, and vulnerability of, whoa, one of my clients says, shout out to this client, new concept, new concept alert. Instead of going into that of, oh, this could be something I don't know. And then compassion for self. We go to, I am scared and I don't want to be alone, right? That same reason that I didn't want to push my ex-husband out of the room. I didn't want to be alone. So I think my big global answer is that.
Yeah.
Of, oh no, like This is why people like the Make America Great Again, right? We want to go back to our place of belonging because accepting everyone means none of us belong. And it's like, wait, no, it's not actually what it means. It's such a scarcity mindset. But so many of us were raised with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, heavens forbids we just support Susie in her choice to parent differently. What?
So let's rattle off a couple holiday tips.
Sure. Can I pull up a list?
By rattle, I mean you.
Well, I pull it up. Do you want to talk about holiday merch and, Christmas presents
gosh,
that people
yes.
might want to, even in this model, look at her.
So do you like this hat? Do you like it? I like it. It's our Sex Ed for You logo hat. It is subtle, has our little logo on it, but it's just so cute and it's embroidered in the same color. So it's subtle and you can wear it around and nobody will ever know, but you should tell them about this awesome merch. We also have sticker packs and we have the membership. You can buy a Hemlock membership for someone who you think would benefit from a monthly book club, a group chat with a bunch of like-minded people on a growth journey. We also have a monthly podcast and a monthly group meeting where we talk about the book that we're reading. So you can gift somebody a year of Hemlock on our website also. You could also buy gift cards for sexuality education, one-on-one and partnered sexuality education. It just applies to everything. Also on our website. And we have downloadables. So if you have people in your life who might want a downloadable little help yourself DIY at home vibe, go look there on our website. It's all going to be linked below. Right there. Mostly get this hat.
Merry Christmas. No, it's so great.
I love this hat.
It's such a good hat. And you can barely tell their logo's there. So it's just kind of like, it's a wink. I encourage everyone to wear them to their holiday gatherings. That'd be so fun.
Oh, I will be.
100%. Let that be your woo-woo, everyone. Okay. So I wrote these out earlier. You're welcome. Tips for encouraging our children to share discomfort at holiday gatherings. But I also think this could happen with our grown-ass kids, right? Can you imagine if adult parents, their kids walked home from college or whatever, and they were like, hey, let's chat because you're changing and you're growing, and I don't want you to feel bullied by any aunt and uncle this holiday. So, hey, listen, this can work for your grown people too. Develop a family safe word. Again, could be potato, could be elf on the shelf, could be whatever you need it to be, but develop a family safe word that everybody knows and can look out for one another. It gives this feeling of camaraderie too. Then develop a silent family signal, same thing. What's the signal? My kiddo just comes and puts her hand on my arm. And that's our signal. And if I can't leave at that moment, she's to stay by my side. And I do the sign language for wait. But I just go like this. And it means I have seen you. I acknowledge you. We will be leaving this as soon as I can wrap it up. And we will go talk privately. Practice at home. If you want your children to share with you, you have to have taught them how to do this first. Set boundaries publicly, like we said, and be less afraid of the scorn of family members and loved ones and more afraid of your children not trusting you. Then follow through, please. And I also said conversations to have before family gatherings. I love families to come up with family values. If folks want to figure that out, I think we have, isn't core values one of our downloadables? Yeah, the downloadable worksheet for that is on our website, and you can totally transform it into a family values exercise. It would be so fun. Then a conversation about responsibility, just like Holland and I were saying earlier. Making sure our children know that they are not responsible for things that are done to them or their bodies, huge. Huge. Conversations about consent. If you don't know what consent is, we have an Amazon shop and we have a full list of books in there for families all about, there's like literally a board book called C is for Consent. It is basic. You can get educated. If you feel leery about what consent is, of course you can reach out to Sex Ed for You, but you also can look at the tons of books we have on there. Your kids might know more about consent. Ask them. They might be able to teach you. And then talking about safety. Talking about lack of needing to hug, talking about, how to defend oneself, how to yell, the right names for anatomy. Holland and I will say this till the cows come home. Please use proper names for your children's genitalia so that they can report exactly where someone touched them and or say, don't touch my penis, don't touch my vulva. It's incredibly important to be able to use the accurate terms.
Yep.
Would you add anything to any of those?
I think I hope you don't, but if you do have a family member that you're kind of leery about, talk to your kids about them.
Yep.
Let them know that you
Yes.
feel uncomfortable around them too, because I remember feeling very alone about the fact that this person creeped me out, and it scared me to say anything because they're a very beloved, person. And so I can imagine that being very scary for a kid. So if you know this person's kind of creepy, one, make sure your kid's not around them as much as possible. And two, tell your kid that I also think that person's kind of creepy, because, just opening that wall of fear.
We talk a lot about fear-based sex education versus pleasure-based sex education. That starts with empowering our children to listen to their intuition, okay? Not fear of discipline or fear of consequence that's not theirs to handle. And so teaching them to listen to their intuition and saying, I will trust your intuition is super powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And using words like that, I get a funny feeling when I'm around Grandpa so-and-so. If you also get that funny feeling, you let us know.
Yeah.
Right. You can come to me. Right. You do not have to sit on anyone's lap. What a disgusting, outdated thing. Get kids off of people's laps that they don't want to be on. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
No, listen to children, and yes, explain and talk about intuition, talk about tummy feelings, talk about feelings, not as much fear.
Yeah.
Because we want children to listen to what does feel good and what doesn't feel good. And if they've just had abstinence until marriage education that is only fear-based, then we find that we end up working with the folks with dyspareunia and vaginismus because they've been taught to so fear other people.
Yeah.
So it's not that we don't want them to be aware of dangerous people. It's that we want them to listen to their intuition and then celebrate it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then if people are getting overstimulated and overtired, let your children leave the room.
Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head way back in the beginning. It's just overwhelming
really
for the
is.
nervous system too.
A lot of noises, a lot of people, weird smells.
Substances,
Yeah.
right? Wine is flowing often at these things and drinks, and let kids have a safe place to go to. Let your kid know they can tap out at any point. And what's the plan for that? Because oh my gosh, we're children at these gatherings. So bad. So we're adults. Yeah. Proud of us.
Yeah.
Both of us navigating all of these things. Yay for new traditions for Thanksgiving. It was so fun.
Exciting.
It was so fun. And if you feel willing, it'd be fun if you could recap for the audience after Christmas.
Yeah.
Kind of how some of this went.
Sure.
I know sometimes, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, the thought that we're going to have to tell somebody about something will almost change our behaviors.
Yeah.
She was saying, I knew I would go talk to my therapist about this. So I thought in my body, what would I want to tell my therapist I did? And I was like, oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So think about your audience will be waiting to see. Yeah. And we're all human. This is where research meets reality.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
I make no promises about my behaviors over this Christmas.
no, just like my beach times were horrible. You know what? We're human. We are human. Yay. I can close this out since you did our sales pitch so beautifully. Hi, y'all. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sex Ed for You with Lauren and Holland, where research meets reality. Like Holland said, everything can basically be found on our website. Go to sexedforyou.com. The top tabs have our shop, they have Hemlock, they have gift certificates, they've got all the good stuff. If ever you can't find something, email admin@sexedforyou.com. Holland will get back to you so fast. That's what everybody usually says to me. Wow, Holland responded so fast. She's a really fast responder. It's great. Get your merch. We'll make sure to be advertising the deadline to get things by Christmas. Thanks for being here and listening. Remember, these are our opinions and our lived experiences. Take what you like, leave the rest. You have a right to informed decision making. Do your research. Disagree with us. It is what we are here for. I think that's all.
That was it.
Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
sex_ed_for_you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.